during the arrest, I don't have anything documented that she said during the actual arrest from my report here.
Okay. Did you seize her telephone?
I did.
Okay. And was that telephone later, did you make a request by search warrant to the court?
I did, sir.
Look into that
Yes, sir.
telephone, were you given that permission?
Yes, sir.
Search warrant? What did you discover on the search warrant that's relative to this case?
During the search warrant, reviewing the returns from that, it was as the information that was provided me prior to or during the arrest, and that was information that showed that she was coordinating arrestable actions from either signal threads or a combination, not either, but a combination of signal threads, Facebook Live posts, text through social media, a combination of different sources from her phone itself.
Okay, you used some terms that maybe the jury doesn't know. What does a single thread mean?
A single application is essentially, it is like an app that you would have for your phone that encrypts messages, and a lot of times people will use them to keep conversations private.
May, hold on.
I would object to this officer's qualifications it takes apply to encrypted messages or trying to hide messages. I made it very clear that I wanted every expert or anybody who's going to have any expert opinions to identify themselves, get their CVs, so we can start litigating potential Daubert issues. As of today, there has not been one person who identifies an expert in any field of law enforcement, any field of encrypted messages, any field of apps. So I'm going to object to this officer's qualifications. I think the rule of 7.24 is very clear that you make a motion for it and discovery is there and it's not turned over, the court shall exclude it.
Well, it was turned over. We turned this over to him. He's had all this stuff. He may not have looked at it, but he's got hundreds of things that we turned over to him.
The issue is not about whether or not you turn over a message. The issue is under 7.24, if you have an expert, you have to identify that expert, give that expert's qualifications, turn over CVs. So the issue I'm saying is not whether or not I have discovery. I'm not making that motion. I'm saying they failed to do that. I addressed it last week in court. They made us think about me having reciprocal discovery, and now they're trying to use this officer as an expert without following 7.24.
Not at all. It's not any more than if he had a gun and he could look at the gun and tell you how it
So
works.
I guess the question is the subject of this question, that you've asked him is to introduce text messaging and have those text messages been converted from encryption to something that's readable. So
On his phone. Yeah, they just did it with an app.
they just did it with the app.
They read-
You have to be an expert to use an app.
I think that you need to have someone from the app company say that that's what that's designed for. You can't, as a law enforcement officer, just make your assumption or have a conclusion that that's what it's used for. I believe that that's why we have that's why the rule's there, and that's why we have these local orders. That's why we have these local signs that say 7.24. If you don't have someone testify by anything, it's going to be an expert.
But I guess I appreciate the objection, and I'm trying to follow that logic. However, if I use an app, and I'm successful in converting something, to something that's legible, I'm not an expert, but I have, made it readable. So just by use of the app, I think that's where I'm hung up.
But we're making an assumption that's what the app's used for. So I think that's what we're making an assumption that's what the app's used for. And now he's testifying that this app is used for this purpose. As a law enforcement patrol officer, that's not within his knowledge base. And now he's asking the jury to explain what that is. Now he's going, what typically people do, that's not something he would do on a regular basis.
If it came to some sort of, expert opinion or some sort of, expertise within the coding of the, application to do the
I guess the question is,
decrypting, I would see that being more of a sustainable objection. But here, he's just, I haven't heard the testimony, but I'm assuming that he's just going to say, they come to us in this form, it's encrypted, and I use the application on my phone, and I can, obtain that. I don't want to put words in my mouth, but is that basically what he's going to say?
no, I think one, he doesn't have the qualification to go through a phone. That's system. So he doesn't do a cell break and pull the information. He's not been trained on that. Two, we're making assumptions, but he doesn't, I think the foundation then has to be cleared up a little bit better. Do you have any knowledge, do you have any expertise, do you work with, and flesh it out? You can't just say, criminals typically do this way.
I appreciate, especially the questions around foundation. So, what I'm going to ask Mr. Roberts to do is I'm going to overrule the general objection for right now, but I think it's important to at least lay a foundation as to, if the messages were first encrypted, how he obtained the ability to, read them if they're encrypted, and what steps that he took, but I don't know, I guess, Mr. Whitley, I'm dubious of the fact that you would have to be an expert to undergo some of those steps if I'm hearing it the way it is. I mean,
And he's
you're
not
just
giving-
using the application.
He's not giving an opinion.
He's giving testimony, which is dangerous. What I'm saying is, assessing, that's the person in the police department who actually has the qualifications to do the civil right. For him to say, I got a search warrant, I got all this stuff,
All right. Well, let me before I'll let you all go. I'm again suggesting the foundation is not there and probably needs to be reestablished. It needs to be through questioning, and I will overrule the objection for right now. But how much more time do you think you have with him? Because I feel like you're about.
I think he'll probably be on the stand for 40 minutes with Cross,
Okay. Well, how much time do you have in your reckon you can probably take a break?
probably 20 minutes, because he's got a couple of apps to play.
Appropriate for a break.